gender, I think about, I guess the best way to put it is the ocean. It's always changing and there's always something more to learn about it, and it's okay to swim out into some identity, and when you feel like you've gone too far, you can pull back, reevaluate the environment.
When I think about gender, I think about how the world has changed a lot since I was born. I think that people are recognizing that there aren't just two genders, that it's fluid, and I know from when I was growing up, there were different roles for men and for women, and if you didn't follow those, it was kind of frowned upon.
I think of how someone shows up in this world, how they present to others, how they identify themselves.
When I think about gender, I think about identity and feeling authentic.
I think about who we are, who we're called to be, and how we bring the richness of that identity to whatever our passions are. So it's understanding our whole self and bringing that forward in the world.
First of all, pronouns are real. Everyone has them. Understanding that gender is more than the sex chromosomes, and that even then, biologically, there's still more than two genders, and that gender is also a social construct, so it was only made to put certain people in power and others to be inferior.
What comes to mind as a historian about gender and gender-related issues is the sheer diversity that is gender identity and gender expression over time and place. One thing that historians are really interested in understanding is how other societies have organized gender, in particular outside the contemporary gender binary. You see in societies such as India or Native American communities, 3 genders rather than 2. It's really important to understand that historically speaking, there have always been more than 2 genders.
We have a connection with gender throughout our whole lives. Sometimes it's more dictated for us. And I think college is an amazing time for students to really think about what gender means to them, how they express it, how they identify, and how they want to learn more about themselves and others throughout their 4 years at Loyola.
The language around gender, especially around trans identity, changes over time. It changes very quickly. Your generation, we owe a lot to for creating new kinds of language, but not everyone has the same experience with it entering the classroom. So we learn how to speak to one another.
I think that's a big issue with having those conversations, is that the other party is afraid to because they're not as knowledgeable in the subject, so they're unsure of how to contribute to everything. And it doesn't hurt to ask questions. I think another fear is asking questions with the wrong terminology. I think something that needs to be done and understood is that when that situation arises, educate them on what they've used and say that it's okay, you're still learning. It's okay to make mistakes as long as there's some progress.
The Office of Equity and Inclusion is one committed to the conversations around gender equity and inclusion. Primarily the things that I think of at first are educational opportunities and training opportunities as well. Meeting with student groups, meeting with different campus partners and departments, again across the institution, to have these conversations to bring up awareness of some of the challenges that students are reporting, but also that employees are reporting as well. I think of the chosen name policy and how that conversation is continuing to happen across different campus partners and across different interest groups as well. We're also continuing to bring up conversations around pronoun usage and the importance of that and why that's important and how that contributes to a sense of belonging for both students and employees on campus as well. And so people are really committed to just, again, ensuring that Loyola is an inclusive campus.
So Messina has several opportunities and ways to introduce discussions of gender identity. The book for fall of 2022, for example, is The Vanishing Half, which explicitly relates to identities and passing around race and gender and trans identities. The faculty read the book as well, advisors read the book, and we can all come together and talk about these issues in a meaningful way from the first days on campus. We're very excited that this is the first year we're offering gender and sexuality studies at one of the sociology classes in Messina for a group of students. And so we're always trying to think about ways we can further expand people's knowledge and awareness around these topics early on.